Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, afternoon, evening, depending on what part of the world you're residing or you're viewing this from. Welcome to another edition of the Football Exponential Show. I am Kingsley as always, and it's a pleasure to have Franklin with us today. Hey, Franklin, you want to say something to our viewers?
Hello, Kingsley. How you doing? Welcome back to our listeners and viewers. I know we've been off the airwaves for longer than expected, but I guess some live events happened. But we're back now to talk about more football.
Absolutely. As much as you guys would love to believe it, football is our life. We also believe that we enjoy, and football is part of what we do. But we just had to attend to quite some personal
Yeah.
non-footballing situations. But regardless, we've always had to keep our eyes glued to everything that's happening in the world of football, especially in the last, say, week and a half. It's been packed, and we want to unpack some of them with you today. There's some hot topics, of course. The Champions League semi-final is on the way already. We've had the
Yeah.
first leg. We've seen the first outcome of that 90 minutes encounter there for both for all four competing clubs, in which I feel like right now, wherever the destination of the UCL trophy is headed, it will be a deserving destination, regardless of whatever, however it plays out. But the Arsenal and PSG game did not disappoint. And talking about lack of disappointment, the Barca versus Inter Milan game was probably one of the games of the
That's yeah.
season. Probably that is one of the games that you can introduce to someone who is just beginning to get an appetite for football, and that would give them a good gist as to the excitement and the thrills and everything that comes with becoming a football fan. But yeah, moving on from that Champions League semi-final, we'll be looking at some of the struggles of of the teams that have participated in this competition up to this stage. And we'll be looking at as well giving flowers out to where it's necessary. I think there's a big shout out for Liverpool in this edition. It's the first edition since they've been crowned the EPL champion.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
in the spirit of guard of honor, we've got a Chelsea supporter as part of our host today. So he's gonna be, starting going the front line and starting that guard of honor. Hopefully, his team would reciprocate that as we go into the weekend. We'll be talking about the top five EPL challenges as well. We'll be seeing who would make it as the number five, or one of the top five teams in in EPL that will be making it to the Champions League football next season. It seems like there's also some excitement for the English fans in the Europa League. I think the representing clubs have been able to fly the flags quite well this season for England, and we'll be looking at how maybe the mighty is gonna crumble a little bit in this Europa League semi-final ties with the results from
okay.
United and Bilbao, and obviously we'll be talking about some bonus topics with respect to speculation around clubs that would have trophies and those that might end their seasons without one. So, without more ado, let's get right into it, starting with the Champions League semi-final first game that happened, Arsenal PSG. How was your heat watch, Mr. Frank?
No, no. No, it wasn't. No, you know me. I'm quite sincere with my observations when I watch the game. There was no hate watch on this day. Wink, wink. But I'll say in that game, I think it was a game that we've all been looking forward to. But straight after kickoff, I was so happy. The football Paris Saint-Germain were displaying in the first opening minutes of that game. They've just scored an early goal, which shaked Arsenal to the core, not just the players on the pitch, but even the fans in the stadium because it took them a long time to get that momentum going. But PSG started fantastic on the day. They really came out flying. Their passes were connected. They looked a lot sharper. They looked a lot crispier with their passes, and they created this goal with this goal with about 22, 26 passes, completed passes combination, and Dembele and Usman Dembele, Kvaratskhelia finds Dembele on the edge of the box, and he finishes quite well. This is a very, I think we're gonna have a conversation about Dembele soon, but that's a very, very, very good finish that we've come to expect from some top players in the past. But I think Dembele finishes brilliantly, and at that moment in time, Arsenal looked like they were in danger of not turning up to that big party. But they wrestled back a bit of momentum. They wrestled back of a bit of possession of the ball in that first half, and they slowly grew into the game. Likes of Declan Rice, Lewis Kelly, Saliba, Timber, they all found that rhythm. I think Arsenal had a few good chances before halftime to bring the game back level, but it didn't
You didn't
materialize for them.
capitalize on it, yeah.
Yeah, but but I think in the second half it was they came out again. Arsenal this time returned the service and they came out flying in the second half. But they had the goal disallowed for offside, the Moreno's goal because. But this week we saw two in the two semi-finals. We saw two goals disallowed for offside that were very by the slightest of margins,
Yeah.
which I don't know how I feel about that quite yet because I feel it's almost yeah. I know, yeah. I, I know why you're laughing. I know, no, I know why you're laughing, boys, but it's not for that. Though. I just feel because the invention of the offside rule was to stop people that were hanging around the goals, goal hangers, the
Mm-hmm.
Inzagis of those days. But I think these days it's a bit if you're getting caught offside by this much, is
Mm-hmm.
it really should we really go into is that really
Yeah,
is that really fair?
football has become a sport of fine margin, right? We saw
Exactly.
one club make it
Quite
through to
literally
the
now.
yeah, we saw one club
Quite
make
literally
it,
now.
through to the quarterfinal of this competition by another club's player, I don't know, connecting with the ball with the
Exactly.
during a penalty kickoff. So we've seen finest of margins decide the outcome of a game, especially at this magnitude. I think that's a little bit of, in fact, probably not the full toe size, making a difference in a game like the one with Barca. And then also maybe Arsenal fans might not like this, but um maybe it halted the parade and the party from the Arsenal set piece coach if Moreno's goal stood. Could have been another full week of glazing on that
Or
important
glazing, yeah,
Arsenal
yeah.
coach if that
No, yeah,
if that had
but
gone
again,
through.
no, but at the same time, we'll talk about it, the importance of set pieces.
Yeah.
But then, but I think Arsenal, the goal gets obviously legitimately called off, and I think Arsenal fashioned another big chance. I think it was Trossard, and Donnarumma pulled off a fantastic save. This is a keeper that has been very much. I think it's fair to say it's had a bit of up and
And
down
downs, yeah.
period in Paris so far. I'm quite notable this particularly this season. He was dropped for the one of the big games in Champions League away at Bayern Munich, and I think Enrique was talking about more about we need a goalkeeper that can come in and give us more on set pieces and give us more on in playing out of the back. But it seems like he's a player that's he's found his form in the last few games in the Champions League. He's looking like a really good goalkeeper. Well, not just good, but all round goalkeeper doing the role perfectly. But I think he pulled up a very good save. Do you think it was a good save or was it
It was a bad finish.
a not so well, not but not so good finish?
So because a good save was the one against Martinelli, right?
I
That
actually,
was
I I feel otherwise. I feel otherwise. But like, 'cause I think Martinelli was the bad finish, and Trossard was a good save. Well,
yeah, no, because
go
the
talk to me.
reason is this with Martinelli, we saw the angles that he was going for, right? And we also saw the position of the goalkeeper, keeping in mind that this happened in real time for both parties, the player and the goalkeeper, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't have the luxury that we have to analyze that gameplay. Maybe that is why you see it a little bit of a bad finish. But at the moment when the game was on, the angle that Martinelli was trying to aim at, right? That was if that had gone through, that would have been like, wow, this is a good finish. I mean, not wow, but that would be like, yeah,
But
this is it. But for Trust, there were a couple of options. There were a couple of options for Trossard, right? And in my opinion, in a game where you needed to go beyond anything else. He could have delayed that decision making because there were a couple of Arsenal players that were bombing through to the box. If he had wanted to go down that route, he could have invited the keeper to come a bit closer and then make a decision to get him to commit.
yeah,
We see this happen over and over again. But seeing that the keeper had already tried to make himself bigger, started to
yeah.
spread towards reducing the space, and you're looking now for that tiny little bit of angle to squeeze it in when you know the importance of what that goal would mean for your team. I don't think that was the best decision, and that is why I
Yeah,
think it's not a good finish.
because I think it's interesting. We see it. I think we see it differently, and because I feel, I think the first one, Martinelli, it's I don't think Martinelli strikes or connects with the ball as best as he should in that
Yeah,
position.
absolutely.
And secondly, I don't think he disguises his attempt to go for the far post well enough from the outset of when he gets the ball, his the way he shapes his body, the way he's leaning back. I think he leaned a bit way back too
Yeah, he leaned
leaned
back
a bit
a
too
bit too
leaned a
much.
bit
Yeah, yeah.
and he didn't generate enough power on the shot to put it past Donnarumma. But I think with Trossard really he really hit that ball perfect. I think he hit it as good as he could in that moment. And it's Donnarumma got down quite brilliant because again I think Donnarumma's about 6'3", 6'5",
Hmm.
one of the tallest around, but he gets down quite brilliantly. And at the same time he gets down, but he gets a hand on it, but he gets a strong palm on that ball because we've seen keepers in the past where they get a strong hand, they get a hand to it, but it's not quite the strongest and
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
goes in. Well, but I think it's either ways they're both big opportunities missed from Arsenal. Either regardless of how you look at it, and I think.
Absolutely.
And I think after the trusted opportunity, then I think Arsenal just faded away. They didn't have any. I'll say they lacked a bit of spark overall on the occasion because you know it's a champion. This is the club's first Champions League semi-final in God knows how long.
Yeah, probably
I
maybe
think this is
15 years, maybe or
yeah.
more.
I
Because I
think
think since the
no.
one that played
I think
Arsenal
it's more.
since the one that played Barca in the final,
Yeah,
which was no, actually, it's probably way more than
I
because
think
that was
the last.
2020, just 2006 was the last one.
Yeah, because I think I'm
2006 was
quite.
the last one because
Yeah, and I think
that
I'm.
was the one they played Barca in the final, right? That was the last time they were in the semi-final.
No, it's no, I think they were there in 2008. So I think I'm quite confident that that's their second semi-final at that new stadium, the Emirates. Because there was the semi-final they played against United in 2008, where Ronaldo scored that long-range free kick.
Oh, that was a quarter final,
Um,
no? That was
was
a
it, no,
that was a
that was a
quarter
semi.
final
No,
because
that
I
was a semi.
okay, so
That was a
yeah,
semi-final. That was
you're
the semi.
right, you're right.
But again, the point is they've
Yeah,
not been at this occasion for a long time, and we saw how it felt very different to. I'm talking about the atmosphere to what they experienced last time out when they played Real Madrid at that same ground, where they feel there was more energy, there was more vibe to it, there was more. I think overall there was more confidence in the team, and you
yeah,
saw the players. They were quite. I don't know if it's the fact that Real Madrid that speaks volumes about how bad Real Madrid are as a team, and this speaks to how good PSG are, where they can go away, silence that stadium, take the ball away from the players, and put Arsenal in this bad situation where they couldn't just get that game going. And on the night, I looked on this night. You look to your big players, the Saka's, the other guy. I think Saka had a quiet game by his standards.
yeah.
But
I
that's for.
think
But I think
Mendes did his job.
I think Mendes is getting that's a good CV. It's a good CV of defensive performances against top white forwards he's putting
Hmm.
together.
Hmm.
But I think Mendes did a good job. But I think the player I was most disappointed in was Arsenal captain, the Odegaard. How did
Mm.
you see his performance?
Well, to be honest, other guy as a whole this season has dropped. Has dropped in
Yeah,
quality,
that's
has dropped in consistency, has dropped in performance. It could just be from the sheer weight of expectation from last season. But um, as much as I appreciate creative midfielders, I think what we're seeing right now is Odegaard's level, and it's quite controversial for me to say it this way, but it's 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 his level in the sense that this is the guy that couldn't make a difference in Real Madrid when Real Madrid was
well,
definitely he
he
barely
was
got
quite
a
young.
chance. Yeah, he barely got a
He was
chance.
quite young,
Yeah, but we've seen Madrid to make exceptions. Like
and also
Brahim Diaz
I
has traveled
no.
around the world to come into to back to Madrid and still get some moments when he can. We've seen that happen, right? If you're top quality, like this is the guy that lost his place to players like James Rodriguez, which I feel were players of the moment, but not they're not. Yeah, I mean, not to discredit everything positive that he has done in his career, and especially besides this season, especially 2 seasons prior to that and last season, Odegaard had a good season. But this one, his there's nothing really going for him. The presence that you
Yeah.
expect from him as the captain, the influence on the game is not there. The statistics these days when we see
They
players
don't,
go
no,
on the
they
stat
just,
pads,
no, but
they're not
I
there.
think,
Even though I know he's not one of those players that you should, he's not one of those players that I believe you should look out from. You should look at his
for
performance from a
this,
point of stats, right? But when you look at the eyeball test, when you look at the control, the calmness, the decision, the decisiveness, it's not there. And also, he's
the
not even,
creativity, the
yes, he's not
spark,
chiming in.
yeah,
He's not mopping up on those loose balls. He's not first to any, he's not first to any second balls. He's not like,
yeah.
it's just, they're just, especially
Look,
in a season where the left wing is
because,
very questionable, they could have
yeah,
relied more on the central attacking and the right wing when they had Saka on. And this is the reason why they're not in active contention for the EPL. Because when Saka dropped off
because
due
of,
to injuries and everything, Odegaard could have been that guy. He was that guy last season. He kept the team going, right, until bigger players or at least relatively big players got back in form. But he has been average at best this
yeah,
season. And his
because,
performance against PSG was not any different. I wasn't expecting more than that,
yeah,
and that's why I feel like that has been his level this season.
because I'm looking at his stats from the last few years. So his expected goals this season, all I think just about every statistic is down this season, down to progressive carries, progressive passes, progressive um expected assists, expected goals that are all down this season. I think he only has at this moment in time he only has two league goals this season. That is I know he missed I think he missed about a month or two in the earlier parts of the season due to injury. But at the same time it's not just about the goals or the assists. It's when you see what PSG came to the Emirates Stadium with the likes of Desiree Doué,
Hmm.
Bradley Barcola came off the bench, Cravadonna, Dembele, even the guys in midfield, Fabian Luiz, Joao Neves, who I think Joao Neves for me was the man of the match. I know he didn't get, I think, I'm not quite sure who got the man of the match on the day, but I think Joao
Vitia,
Neves was
I
one of
think
the,
Vitia was,
Vitinha.
and I think he's
I
very
think
deserving as well.
yeah, but I think
Mm.
Joao Neves was it. But if you see the freedom to which this PSG attackers play, the confidence with how they play, they get the ball on their weaker foot, right foot, they're taking on players, they're creating chances, they play with their confidence is high. But with Odegaard and other Arsenal attackers, even Kroos and Martinelli, it's just they seem a bit shy. I don't know if it's a matter of the occasion got to them, and I don't know if it's a matter of quality or a matter of just confidence, or is it a matter of because I don't think it's coaching particularly. Because I think
No,
Arteta
it's a
has got the team. It's a combination of all of it.
it's a combination of all of it, and I'll try to break it down to the best of my
Okay,
ability.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
For example, the
Cook, cook,
atmosphere
cook,
was
cook, cook.
lacking. The atmosphere was
Yeah,
lacking. If you see, um, excuse my language, but what the F was that tifo that
yeah,
Arsenal
yeah.
tried to
That was
create there?
embarrassing. That
That
was
was
that was embarrassing. That for
you
an
know
occasion this big.
big. That
I think just to touch on this because I was reading about this whole. There's been I think between the fan base or certain fan groups within Arsenal and the club itself, they had paid or they had raised big funds to for other tifo ideas that they could put out on the day. Like there were
Mhm.
some very graphic and some very interesting ideas they had, but for some whatever reason that I don't understand, the club Arsenal turned those options down, and it seemed they went with a simpler option, which was just the
That
how
was the
the
banner.
how,
That was the
how
banner. That was a very large size flag.
that was an embarrassment, and I think in return, like when Arsenal do go over to Paris, they're going to get a different environment there, and you're going to
Exactly.
see how this. Yeah, I think you're making a point. Continue.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, because that again is the starter pack for environment, right? When the atmosphere in your stadium is colorful, well prided in your color, and it's a good thing that Arsenal is red and white, the very distinct colors, you do miss them, right? Um,
Yeah,
and you can see that in the atmosphere. You can feel that in the atmosphere. The players would definitely have their shoulders dropped a little bit. And then you move into tactics. They were not attacking enough, right? Especially in your home turf, you could have done more. And that's again, in contrast, shows you the importance of what Thomas Partey brings to that team. I feel like Thomas Partey brings that solidity, that base
that's a good point. That's a good point.
that then allows the players who go forward to be more expressive, to be more daring, to be
And the
more
composure,
intentional.
and because he's quite he's a very different player because I think Declan Rice filled in for him on the night. And Declan is a fantastic player, but he's not quite Thomas
They're
Partey
very
as sitting in that midfield.
different profiles. Yeah.
The composure he brings to that team, and also even some can argue that the goal Arsenal consider is had Partey been in that moment, he probably reacts different than Declan Rice did, and you don't get that freedom Dembele had on the edge of the box to finish perfectly. But also, again, because I've I think a lot of people, I particularly feel one of Arteta's biggest issues or the biggest worry I have with Arteta for Arsenal, though I you know me, I'm a hater, but say I worry about whenever it comes to these moments where say one player is injured or one player is out suspended, and you have to find a solution to the lineup. He tends to solve one problem by creating two or three other problems. So in this situation where Partey is missing, so how do you fix the Partey problem? He goes about it by bringing Declan Rice further back to the sitting role. Then he brings Moreno, who's not had the best of seasons in midfield, particularly, but he's found himself as a
Yeah.
target
Target
number
man.
nine,
Yeah.
target man
Yeah. A
in the
floating
box.
nine. Hmm.
Like that. So he brings him from that position, drops him all the way back. Then he brings in Trossard, who's up until this moment, he's played a big part role in Arsenal's Champions League campaign, especially in this latter stages. So Trossard starts this game. We don't know how ready is it for this big occasion. And when you take away Declan Rice from that position where he writes that freedom to roam, to go about, chase the ball, that
Hmm.
energy he brings to the team, the driving runs, and his ability to go forward, you lose a lot in that aspect. And at the same time, when you then have that player who lacks the composure of a Thomas Partey that can get the ball,
Hmm.
find the right pass, play through the lines, the whole system crumbles. So I just feel is there a situation where Arteta could have just gone about it a bit differently, kept everyone as they were? Because at the same time, if Trossard doesn't start, you have another player off the bench that can come in and make an impact towards at the back end of the game. So say he keeps it the way it is. Moreno as number nine, Rice stays where he is. Then he brings in, say, a Ben White for example, where or a Lewis Kelly, who's by trade a midfielder who's had his breakout season at left back. And understands that these are all risky options and
Hmm.
options that you've probably not tried in the past. But I just feel if you take another route where you make just one change, okay, one player goes in for that player, it's stabilizing the whole team. Rice can do what he's doing, Moreno can keep doing what he's been doing, and everyone has that. They have that feel of familiarity in their movements and their shape, and they play better. But again, it's just I think well, I'm probably overthinking it. But again,
Yeah.
it will be interesting to see how they play the second leg with Thomas Partey back into the lineup.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just one more thing before we get off the topic for Arsenal PSG. Um, we've seen time over time this season and even the season before that Arteta would favor a steady back line than anything else. So that in itself buttresses my point when I say there was some tactical
Yeah,
um
yeah,
restrictions that these
tactical.
players had. Yeah,
Yeah,
so because he didn't want to change much in the back line, understandably, right? Gabriel is a huge impact and shouldn't, you don't have the luxury to rely on him. And then the next best solid line of defense would have been having Thomas Partey there, and you can't even rely on him again because of that obviously stupendous yellow card that he had against Real Madrid. But now we go on to the forward line, and I don't see any freedom. I don't see any tactical mix up there. I don't see any um like there was an outlet all through for PSG. There was an outlet, and while we're here, I'm talking about Martinelli, Trossard, and the chances they missed. The actual bigger chances were missed by PSG.
yeah,
Ramos
arguably, yeah,
Gonzalez
yeah, yeah. I think
chance
we'll
that
talk about
was
that
missed
before
was
we go.
something else.
Brack,
Bracola. He could
Bakula
have he could
was
have
Bakula could have
he could
still,
have had two goals
yeah,
double in 5 minutes or thereabout. He missed that as
yeah.
well. So those were clear chances that on another night they would bury, and then the tie would pretty much be over. So in that sense, Arsenal can look at it and feel like there is still some momentum to build on. There is still some like this tie is not lost. That's how I look at it. And either ways, as if you're an Arsenal supporter, the way I would look at it is either ways you have to go to Paris and try to get a goal. Football
I
has
think two
evolved beyond
goals.
that point. Yeah,
I
now
think
two
I think
goals,
two
but
goals. Yeah,
now two goals,
minimum
but
two
at
goals.
least you go one step at a time. You get a goal first, you
Yeah,
tie the game, and then you see where it goes. Because at the end of the day, there's a possibility they can make it through to the next round without scoring more than one goal. There's a possibility
yeah.
mathematically.
Of course, there's that chance. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
that chance.
so that means that you at least have something to hold on to and build on, given that you've shown that you favored more your defensive respite over your attacking um expectations there. But I think those are some of the things that I'll just kind of want to say that to, especially Arsenal fans who might be feeling a bit lost. Not to motivate you because personally I don't care too much. But but if I were looking at that, if I were looking at that from an Arsenal perspective, the tie is not lost. There's every reason to be enthusiastic about
Okay.
the return game, and hopefully you can take your
Well,
chances.
yeah. Yeah, but you mentioned the two chances PSG had towards the end and in the latter stages of the game. Do you do you, do you think PSG would or should feel a bit worried that they didn't see the game out in the first leg, or they're not going to the second leg with a bigger margin of advantage?
Yeah, yeah, especially when you have the core of that squad and the history of that squad in
Yeah,
the Champions League. They've bottled a lot of
it's
good
they're
opportunities. So there's a very
quite
finicky
butlers. Yeah.
side, yes. Especially when you think about their main man this season, Usman, if he remembers the nightmare from his days in Barcelona and not
And last
killing the
season, no,
chance,
just in last
yeah.
year against Borussia
So
Dortmund in the same
exactly,
semi-final.
so that might play in their mind. But I see this Arsenal team as a very mature team, even though they're not pretty much the oldest in the competition, but they're very mature. I think they spend significant amount of time playing with each other. They've also had the most stable management of the four teams left in the competition. Arteta has been the longest serving manager for his club at the
Yeah,
moment.
that's
Yeah.
true. That's a good point. That's a good point. That's a good
So
point. And
so they have
yeah,
that, and they can at least they can stay. Their ideologies are not changing season by season, right? As compared to some of the other clubs, their ideology is not changing. So they know the core of their performance, and then they just need to go in there and get their best players to do what they do best, create more
okay.
one-on-one isolation situation with Saka, and again continue to trust in their coach because they don't have any other option.
Okay. And so, how do you see the second leg going? Who do you think are favorites to emerge from this tie?
In terms of favorite, I think PSG are favorite. They have
Yeah.
an advantage with a
Percentage
goal.
wise, give me a percentage.
Okay, so I think in terms of favorite, I would say it's a 60-40 in favor of PSG.
Okay.
PSG has to bottle it for it to be different,
Okay.
but looking at my ball knowledge, I think Arsenal would just go by and get through.
Mm. Yeah, because I think what Arsenal cannot afford to do is to go away to go away in Paris next week and perform as bad as they did in the first 10, 20 minutes of the first leg. Because I feel if they have a performance that's similar to that, they're going to get blown away by Paris
Oh
Saint-Germain.
yeah,
And I said, and the reason why I say two goals because I can't remember anything that's kept a shot out. No, to be fair, Liverpool did quite brilliant. They
Liverpool
nicked
did.
a goal on
Liverpool did.
Liverpool did. Well,
Liverpool
I
did.
think PSG have I think this year PSG have more. There's this maturity to them. This seriousness to that club this year. I don't know if it's because certain French strikers left, but we'll see how that pans out for them
Oh
in the
well,
second leg.
or maybe a certain
So
Spanish coach is at the helm of affairs.
I
Who
th
knows?
well, I think one has influenced the other. So, but I think moving on to the. I think if Arsenal and Paris was the starter, I think this is going to be the main course. The Barcelona
Oh
Inter
yeah,
Milan tie. It finished
oh
3-3 on
yeah.
the night. A lot of goals, a lot of goals. This was a spectacle of football. Fantastic players on show. An early goal, another a fantastic solo goal from the latest phenom in the football stage. Set piece goals, and a bit of character from Barcelona and a bit of resilience from Barcelona to come back in this game. I think that's they came back twice to equal the tie. They could have one side could have easily lost it with the offside goal, Barcelona, and then at the same time, I think Barca. Well, again, talk to me about because you're obviously the Barca fan. How do you see it? Are you happy with the results? Or are you happy with the performance? Was there any issues or any bits that you were disappointed with? So talk to me.
Yeah, so I'm not happy with the result. I'll state that out, but I'm
Yeah,
very pleased and proud of the performance. Um, losing like giving away two goals to set piece is just like if you're
it's
looking at
unprecedented
the
that
yeah no
let's call it what it is. I think it's a bit poor to give away the goals Barca give away a bit too
yes
easily. If you understand what I mean.
yes yes absolutely it's absolutely avoidable goals, to put it that
Yeah,
way, to put it
absolutely. Yeah,
mildly. They're all avoidable goals. But also, those are goals that when Hansi Flick and team are analyzing what to expect from Inter Milan, you would list those things. There will be area threats, they'll
exactly.
drop from deep and
Set
trying to hit
pieces,
the
the wing
Africa,
backs. Yeah,
the wing back. I mean, the average Inter Milan player there was like the average height was about 1.90 meters, right?
okay.
compare
Yeah,
like compare that to the average height for Barcelona players. Like it was day and night, right? It was in terms of size, it was almost a David Goliath feeling, right? So you know that these players will build off their strength, and you let them do that. And I don't think I've ever been crossed with Pedri as I was with him on the second goal. Right. And that is the difference between Pedri and Gavi. There have not been a lot of moments this season where you'd want to criticize anything that Pedri does because he's been absolutely flawless, right?
yeah.
But on that second goal there, on the overhead kick from Dumfries, all Pedri needed to do is stick a head in. That's pretty much a situation of verbal use your head. You stick your head in, it becomes a high foot challenge. Whatever it is that Dumfries did is done, is just done. Or
Mm.
Gavi, 99.9% will put his head and his eyes and everything in that, and Okubasi will do
Well,
that, and
it's
Arroyo will
pretty,
do that, but Pedri wouldn't do
but
that, and
because he's not that
he's not.
sort of player. He's
Yes, he's
not.
not
Yeah,
that sort of player. Yeah, that's one of it. He's not that sort of player. But you're talking about the Champions League semi-final when your team is already a goal down, you
yeah.
become that
Is
sort of
that
player because
understand?
that
Yeah.
yes that understanding, that intelligence and all of that. So but again, that was very disappointing. The slip from Inigo Martinez for the first goal, I can't really be too mad at him because the effort was there, the desire was there, the closing down was there. It's just a moment of moving too soon, and then there was a slip, and then. But I
And
expected
the
Chelsea,
finish,
I expected
the finish.
Chelsea to react a bit faster. He was a bit, he was still slow. He was still waking up to the game. If that had happened 15 minutes into the game, I think Chelsea would react a bit quicker because it's
30
not.
seconds. 10 seconds
Yes,
in.
10 seconds into the game, he was still kind of basking in the moment. I would like to imagine that or whatever, but that is still unacceptable from a very top world-class goalkeeper. He should be
No,
saving that.
debatable.
Uh, yeah, he should be saving that. I mean, he's a
Yeah.
very
No,
vast
yeah,
goalkeeper
yeah, no,
with
of course, they should be
decent.
saving that.
If you look at his portfolio,
But
he
what
should be.
class is
Well,
yeah, I
he's.
think I, I think a
I think in.
goalkeeper of his
Yeah,
standard
yeah.
should be doing better there.
To
But
save
again,
that,
okay,
he should be saving that.
So Barca go. So I'm trying to let's build up to the big moment of the game for me, particularly. I don't know about you.
Yes.
Barca two goals down. They're looking Inter have so far frustrated Barca. They stifled their chances. But Yamal steps up. How are you? How did you see this
So
wonderful moment from this wonderful player?
one thing I would like to say even before we talk about the Yamal's moment, right? It was immediately the Inter Milan players took the ball back to the halfway line to kick off that game. He was immediately, this is the 17 years old pointing to his head. and looking at the rest of his team and he's doing this. So this again, the different types of leadership, the different types of charisma, the different types of things you see in players at different points in their career. But this was the player that literally looked at the whole
That's
stadium, looked at
that's leadership.
the
That's
entire
mentality right there.
players, and he's telling you, we've got this. And he scores the goal, right? I've seen a lot of players do it these days. They score the goal, they run into try to get the ball themselves, and but again, he scores that goal. He saw that he had the teammates closer to the goal than himself. The teammate is going to get the ball and is running back to the midpoint of the field to kick off the game again. I want to use this moment to appreciate his mentality for a 17 years old. Now we will go on and talk about the skill set and the confidence and the ability to perform at the level that he has performed. By a mile, this is the best individual performance in the Champions League this season by and it's not close. He could have walked out with a hat trick on that game. In
Okay,
that game,
yeah,
he
that's
could have
true.
walked
That's
out
true.
with a hat trick. He dropped the keeper, he hit the bar twice, and those attempts were audacious. The audacity to even go for it.
Yeah.
It is like if we're talking about watching football with the eyes and keeping the stat one side, this is an example. Just put the stat aside and what did you see in that performance? I saw a brilliant young man who knows his ability, who has confidence in himself, and who knows that he can produce. And most importantly, it doesn't stop with him knowing that. It's the rest of his teammates, and we're talking about a club that has the pedigree of certain players. We're not talking about some clubs that are just finding their way. We're talking about Barcelona and the other nine men on the field realized that this is the guy. And from the moment they went down to new, all balls were headed to Yamal's direction, and he
Yeah.
kept delivering. He kept
He
delivering.
had
So,
he had the because I'm looking at statistics because I saw it. I'm just trying to get it back again.
mm,
So he had the second most touches of any player on the pitch,
yes,
104 touches. The only two players had more touches than him. That's Pedri and De Jong.
you can imagine,
And
and
it's
having
because
that much touch from the flank.
yeah, and again because I think watching this game, I think even with the build up to this time particularly, there was a lot of talk about the past when I think 15 years ago when Jose Mourinho's Inter Milan came to the Camp Nou with I think 2 goals advantage, trying to stop a very very strong Barcelona team with Lionel Messi at his doing his thing then. But it was quite, on that day, if I remember correctly, I think Mourinho went into it with a plan of 3 players around the zones Messi was occupying, and they successfully did it on that day, even across the tie, home and away. But I think Inter Milan drew a bit of inspiration from that performance of that old team. And I think they went to that sort of same approach. But what they didn't expect was not just the talent, but the brilliance of this kid. And that goal, let's talk about the goal now. Like, again, you know what? I was speechless. I was speechless when I saw it. I don't know. I'll let you characterize it. How did you feel in
Uh,
that moment? Because that was the goal that brought you back into the game.
yes, and I wasn't speechless. And maybe I'm a bit spoiled. Maybe I'm like that kid that's gone
Yeah,
to a candy shop. I wasn't speechless. And the reason why I wasn't speechless was that you see the way certain game progresses, and you know that a
yeah.
player is in the mood.
He's
Yamal
in the zone.
was in the mood, he
Yeah.
was in the zone, right? He was taking on players that literally almost twice his size. Like look at what he did to Turan. Whether or
Yeah.
not Turan is fully fit, he just scored a
But
goal. So
still,
he
yeah,
he was a
yeah.
high, it was on a high in terms of momentum. He was it was
But even
dropping drone.
but even physically, it's a mismatch between player Thuram and Yamal, where Thuram is trying to dispossess him in that moment, but he still has the strength, the stamina to just evade that pressure from Thuram, cut inside, and what like
What
it's
a goal.
the,
What a goal. And in my opinion, if the second attempt, the one that
the one where he
Summers
drops,
and
yeah,
if that
where he
had
drops
gone
DeMarco, then he
yeah, if that had
yeah,
gone in, that may have
that's
even been another better goal. And that's the point that I'm saying.
It's yeah,
It
but
could have been because of
you
the
could have
way
bettered
he
it within
progressed
minutes.
within a minute. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
this is the brilliance of this kid that we're talking about. That goal, if you take various picture frames of that goal, you will see literally six Inter Milan players were invited to the zones where Yamal was. Six. There were some blocking the passing lane to
Passing
find the
lanes, yeah.
Rafinha or to find the Torres. There were some blocking that as well. And then there were two guys comfortably trying to gear him into his weaker foot, the right foot. But he found the tiniest of space and the perfect moment. And not just that, the perfect precision. Because 1 centimeter further away, that was hitting the crossbar and out.
It kisses the post and
Yeah,
goes
that
out,
was
yeah.
hitting the post and out rather. But everything had to happen. Everything had to happen for that goal to go in. And that was the beginning of the cracks for Inter Milan. And that was the momentum builder for Barcelona. I would have said that time would have been totally different if that goal didn't come in until the 40th minute. Inter would have gotten comfortable in their skin. They would have weathered the storm. But to pull off something like that, just moments after getting down twice, is absolutely brilliant. Like there is no adjective to describe the brilliance and the composure and the quality of the goal. And thankfully, he had other teammates who were unsung with him. Otherwise, that would have been a moment of brilliance that went for nothing. We've seen it happen over and over again in football, where a particular player is in the mood and his other teammates were not in
It's
that
been let
wavelength.
down.
Yeah,
They're not the same. They're not in sync
yeah.
and all. Yeah,
Yeah, but there's a
but just
player that I was quite disappointed with from Barcelona in terms of going forward. I expected more from Olmo. The game seemed poised to be his kind of game where, you know, one or two shots, a quick shimmer of drop of the shoulders, you hit the angle bang. That game had the recipe for Olmo to thrive. But it was awkwardly quiet. It was awkwardly quiet and got
yeah.
until he got taken off, and that bothered me a
He
bit
wasn't
because
he
yeah,
wasn't happy. I think he wasn't happy with that substitution, but partly because that spoke to his performance on the day. Because you probably know, like you feel it when you've not had a very good outing. But just on the Amalgo before we move further in timeline, because you always see with the best players or they're like artists, they always have they have that snapshot, the image in their head of what they're trying to do very really quick. And with him, the way he gets the composure, the composure, the stamina, and the technique to beat, to evade the tackles, the press, or whatever. And when he gets inside the box and just all around the box, he also at the same time disguises the shot a little bit because he catches it somehow off guard because sometimes like we spoke about Martinelli being able to he telegraphs you could read the movement of where the shot was going to go, so how he leaned his body one way. But with Yamal, you know he's left footed, but with the slightest slightest of what we call I forgot what they called back kick where you pull
hmm
your leg back. He just
yeah.
touches it a bit and just places it to the top corner. I think that's the goal you can say if it's the best away, but I think that when stories are being written about this player, when it's all said and done, this would be one of those moments in his hopefully amazing career where we all look back and say, you know what, we were all there when we saw it. It's like that Messi's moment against Getafe all those years ago when
Yeah.
um, he does the same Maradona move where he
Uh-huh.
beats, I think, 8 or 9 players, scores,
Uh-huh.
chips the
Uh-huh.
goalkeeper. I think this is Yamal's moment where, on the biggest stage where your team needs you the most, you rise to the occasion and you pull a goal back. And I think Barca just, from that moment, it's just wave after wave of attack, just constant pressure. I think I think some people might be overly critical on the last goal, but I think overall he was very good on the day because there were a lot of shots that came his way was either parrying them quite well or was parrying and saving and holding on to them. I said them because Barcelona were in the groove after that goal.
Yeah, no.
So they get 2-2 and Ferran Torres.
Yeah. They could have
How do you see his performance, Ferran Torres?
Ferran Torres is another guy that has stepped up.
Yeah,
He's a true and true professional right now. He appreciates whatever minutes he has to deliver on the pitch. You see him, he takes it with a lot of positivity. But he's calm. And most importantly, he's confident. Like they usually would say, a striker's food is goals, and that breeds confidence, and that is Ferran for you this season. Um, his goal to game ratio has been off the charts, but just look at the movement, and that is what you look at a very telegraphed, orchestrated football side as opposed to people who are just trying to play football and get things done. He was expecting
Real Madrid.
the he was expecting that header back from Rafinha, and he was from his body gesture, he was literally giving an inclination to Rafinha as to what part of the area that ball should fall, and it was just it was just
It was clean, clean.
it
That
was
was a
clean.
clean
It was
goal.
very
Very
crisp. That was a clean crisp goal. Very easy on
the
the
pass from
eyes.
Pedri. Yeah,
Y-
it was. I think
Yeah,
that was a very good goal.
yeah, very easy on the eyes. The ball over the defense. Rafinha knows that the keeper was breathing down his neck. Put it down there. It's just a tapping, and I think Barca could have gone into halftime 3 or 4-2 up if they had taken other chances as well.
Yeah,
And that is
because
that part of the disappointment for me.
yeah. I think I was watching the game. At that moment, I was like, okay, Inter Milan, they need halftime badly. They need
Yeah,
to go back, get a bit more tactical instruction, get a bit more runs. Because again, it's tiring when you have to defend and concentrate for that long against a team as good as Barcelona. But I think I won't say lucky, but they get to halftime at 0-0. And at that moment, I was a bit disappointed with the Alvaro approach because you can also at the same time you can sit a bit, sit deep, protect your goal, protect your box. But at the same time, you can also be aggressive. I didn't feel they were not quite as aggressive off the ball as I'd hoped for them. But they go into the second half. I think someone comes off. Lazaro Martinez comes off
yeah.
at halftime, and I think Kunde came off at halftime as well
It was slightly
for
after halftime. Yeah.
slightly halftime. So I think just yeah, Kunde comes on before halftime, in fact. But Garcia comes on and Arroyo comes on at halftime for Gerard Martin. And I think this is where it gets interesting because I think Inter now come out. They know they have to get more of the ball, otherwise they're going to get destroyed. And they have to be aggressive off the ball at the same time. So I see in second half, they went about it a bit smarter. They were more, they pressed up a bit. They dropped a bit deeper. Whenever they managed to force Barcelona back to the goalkeeper a few times. Then they squeezed up the pitch and back and forth. And I think even more importantly, they were able to connect their passes more in the second half. And you see with the chances where I think especially down that flank of Dumfries. Dumfries was always the spare man every time they needed that guy, where they could always hit the pass across the field was always there and was always and with how Barca play with the high line, it's you always have that space to hit the ball into. And they got I think they got a few worrying chances from that, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And that is where I also appreciate the brilliance of Hansi Flick to recognize that, okay, it's enough. Gerard Martin, I've trusted you. It's okay. Out you go. Bring in people who are more seasoned and more confident for situations like this. Moving Inigo Martinez to the flank,
Yeah.
to left back,
So
and then
left
having
back.
yeah, and having Arroyo come in, that also helped steady the ship for Barcelona in a lot of ways, right? And that was why the third goal that they conceded was even more disappointing because now you have four
You have
fullbacks, sorry, four center
four centre
backs
backs. Yeah.
playing, and
Yeah.
then you still consider goal on set piece. That was my own point of anger because at that point we had Eric Garcia, Arroyo, Kubasi, and Inigo Martinez all on the
Yeah.
pitch at the same time, and Dumfries, which is not the tallest of them all, was getting on and scoring
Yeah.
a set piece. That
And
was really poor.
it's quite disappointing when you give again statistic when you give away when you give away two corner kicks and you end up conceding two goals from those corner kicks. It's a bit poor in my opinion because you have to. I don't know if
If
it's
we
an
want
issue
to if
where
we want to
pe-
contextualize things, if we want to actually contextualize things, is three set piece goals in two games. They considered
yeah,
a set piece to Chumani, Real Madrid,
I guess yeah in the cup final
and
yeah
pretty much yes. So three out of your last four goals conceded were on set piece.
And more to the fact that because even the way Inter Milan went about that game in the second leg
Hmm.
against Bayern Munich at the San Siro, where they targeted Bayern Munich's issues at defending set pieces, and you expect a team like Real Madrid with the coaching, the analysis, they would sorry, a team like Barcelona, they would have come prepared for this. And also when you have because sometimes you think it's like you said about Pedri when Pedri was in that situation where he tried to
Hmm.
defend on Dumfries. But you expect okay when you have four defenders, they have the height, they have the size, they have the ability to, or they have the training
Hmm.
and the skill to also when the ball comes in, first contact on the ball. But I said by the same time, it's also the two good corner kicks from Inter Milan. It seems like they've worked really hard on this for a long time, and it paid off for them big time. And Dumfries gets his second goal, and Inter Milan's third goal on the night, and that puts them 3-2 up. At this moment, were you a bit worried? Were you down? But did you still believe that Barca could still make this happen?
Yeah. The interesting thing is this, right? I was disappointed because if that third goal happened to be a Barca goal, you would have had the fourth one. I'll tell you that.
Yes. Yeah.
It would have taken a lot for Inter
Inter
Milan
Milan
to
to
get
come back.
out of that. Yes.
Yeah.
So when the third goal came in, to be really frank, I haven't even had enough moments to simmer through my emotions to kind of piece how I was feeling
Yeah.
before Rafinha immediately reciprocated. That that was the mentality that I looked at and made me proud as a Barca fan on the night because it shows that the team is resilient. It shows that the team is confident in their ability. But it's just why do you wait until you have your back against the wall before you pull this out? You should understand the gravity of this tie. You should be pulling it out from minute one,
But has that not
right?
been
You should
but
be. You
but
should.
has that not been the story of Barcelona this season though, to be honest? Because let's look at
No,
it.
absolutely,
So
absolutely not.
so
Absolutely,
even
absolutely not.
wait, no, wait,
Because
wait,
more
wait,
often
wait, wait,
than
wait,
not, Barca. Yeah,
let me land. Because I feel even in the game against Real Madrid where they score first, they goal up, Real Madrid go back at halftime, come back, and they start playing the better football at that moment in time. They equalize and they go 2-1 up. Then at that moment, Barca were not playing the best. Then I think Flick made a couple of changes and swung the momentum back in Barca's favor, where they came back and they won it in extra time. Even the games against Atletico Madrid this season, the one in the cup where you concede two goals at home
yeah.
in the first 10 minutes, then you react to it. Even
Mm-hmm.
again in the league as well, when you concede two goals again, then you react to it. Is that not been especially? And I think the game against Bayern Munich where you considered first. I think you considered first against
No,
Bayern Munich,
we
then
we
you
scored
reacted to
first,
it.
and then no, we scored first against Bayern Munich. The first goal Bayern Munich scored was an own goal. Sorry, not an own goal, it was an offside, and then
Harry
Barca
Kane.
took the lead, and Munich, yeah, Harry Kane equalized, and then
Oh yeah,
Barca
yeah,
stepped
yeah.
up again.
Rafinha scored.
But I, but,
Yeah,
yeah,
Rafinha
but I
scored
get
first. Kane
I think
equalized. Then Barca went.
yeah, yeah, but you can say that it happened again against Benfica. It happened again against Borussia
Yeah,
Dortmund. I
like I
think
said,
in Dortmund's
you can
home.
see the
They've been, yeah. So I see the trend. I see the pattern. But if that, let's just say that has happened 15% of the time this season, right? The other times is Barca going and getting the job. And Barca actually do have a lot of early goals. They calm the
that's
nerves
true.
of themselves, and then they build from that. So, but it's just in crucial moments like this, it's not
No big
acceptable.
games, not
Thankfully,
not
it's never
just
been. Mhm.
because it's not
Yeah, big
just because
games,
good games
crucial
like
moments,
it's
big
big
games,
games. It's not
decisive game. Exactly,
okay.
exactly. Because the same thing happened. The same thing happens to them against Real Betis. They were a goal up, and then Betis clawed their way back, took momentum of the game, and Barca never fully recovered from that. They tried and tried and tried, and then the game ended in 1-1 draw, and that in itself is the reason why the title La Liga title challenge
It's
is
still
still
open.
open.
Yeah.
Right. So
Okay,
so
okay,
it's just so far
but
it's frustrating. It's frustrating, but you have to appreciate the mentality of the coach. And there's not enough shout out going to Hans Flick at the moment for his in-game management. He seems to always been able to look at what is not working and make changes. Start. like you can date it as far back as the start of the season when Barca won 4-0 against Real Madrid. Remember, that was a 0-0 game at halftime.
0-0 at
Then
halftime.
the
He makes a
introduction of
sub at
Frankie,
halftime.
and things changed.
Uh,
Exactly.
yeah,
Same
yeah,
thing. Yeah, so it's happened over and over again. But I feel
yeah.
like Barca's put
No,
themselves in quite some
it's
precarious
a bit.
situation.
I, I think with Hansi Flick, he's one of those coaches that it's taken as read because he's so, or at club level, his levels are so high where you just sort of take it for granted at what he's able to achieve at this level. Because this is we've seen him at Bayern Munich, we've seen him now with Barcelona, where is the team is scoring. I think Barca are probably pushing towards 150 goals this season in all competitions. Like the team scores goals.
Yeah, I think it's
If
158
they
at the moment. Yeah.
yeah, so they play with this freedom, creativity, but even the attacking players, they seem to statistically their numbers are not almost inflated whenever he's at the helm. But I think he's a brilliant coach. He's one of those. He's very clear with his instructions, very clear with his principles, and he knows what he wants and he knows how to get there and he sticks to it. And at the same time, I think it's also important when you can when you come across as very trustful, when your players see you as a guy they can trust. He has that he has that or gives me that feeling where you can really trust in him, where it's like a father figure to this. Because again, this is a very I know there's some older players in this, but this is still a very young and
Yeah.
not inexperienced, but and just they're quite shy at this moment. 17-year-old
Yeah.
Yamal, Kubasi
Yeah.
is
They're
there,
clearly
Pedri,
not at their
even
peak. Yeah.
the likes of Pedri are still quite youngish. But Rafinha gets then you get Barca get the equalizing goal. Rafinha's fantastic shot goes off the bar then off Jan Sommer for 3-3. And I think at this moment this is where the games went was more open at this point. I think where either team could have won it. I think more probably more Inter Milan with that the Salah's goal from Mkhitaryan. But I feel at this point were you happy to settle for a draw at that moment, or were you still hoping for another brilliant
Yeah,
moment of
yeah,
magic?
absolutely. I would have, no, absolutely, absolutely. I would have taken 3-3. If anybody had played all these options at the start of the game and say, oh, you'll be down 2-0 at some point, and you claw back, and then you go down again and you claw back. Yeah, absolutely, give me that. I'll take it and ride the chances of what it is to go to Inter Milan, knowing fully well that they must score. Because if Inter Milan ended that game 3-2 up, they have that cushion of knowing that, you know what, if we defend like we can go all the way without even needing to score. Now, the demands, and this is where the beauty of the lack of away goals advantage comes in play for Barcelona, because the fact that Inter Milan understands that they still need to get a goal, if not a couple more, would mean that there will be spaces there. So I would have taken that 3-3. I think most people will take it. Inter Milan supporters, Inter Milan board,
Yeah,
Inter
I
Milan
think yeah,
players,
yeah,
management will take that 3-3. Absolutely.
yeah.
I also understand the frustration for Barca fans who would look at it and agonizingly wish that, oh, we scored one more goal or at least considered one less goal. But looking at how the game played out, 3-3, the players would not have their heads down. Remember, they're coming off playing 120 minutes of intense football just a few days ago against Real Madrid. It doesn't matter what form Real Madrid is. When you're playing Barcelona, it's always going to be them coming out at their best possible intensity and all of those kind of things. So it wasn't an easy game. And of course, maybe they had slightly a couple more hours of rest in comparison to the Inter Milan team, but Dumfries was coming in a bit fresher. Thuram was coming in a bit fresher as well. I mean, all those played to the advantage, but I think the return against San Siro would be
How do you see
less
it?
dramatic.
How do you see it? How do you see the second leg
Uh,
unfolding? Who are your favorites? Obviously,
I think it will be a
I expect you
very
to go, but
no.
I
I
expect
think
you
it'll
to
be
go
a
with Barcelona.
narrow scoreline. Yeah, I
Okay.
think it'll be a narrow scoreline. I don't think we're gonna get 3-3 or something of that nature. We'll be absolutely thrilled if we have three goals as a total in that tie. Um,
Yeah.
But I my heart my heart says Barcelona would go through, but my football brain is gonna
You're
give
worried. You're
Inter that
worried.
edge, that little bit of
Yeah.
edge. Yeah,
Because with
yeah,
Inter they have I
yeah.
think they have a very good record at home in the Champions League, and with taking a draw back, I think they'll be very I, I think they'll have mixed feelings about the performance, but I think they'll take a lot of encouragement from how they were able to cause Barca some issues at the back. But I think I see this as I see this 50-50. It could go either way. I'm not really sure where it could go. It could really swing either side. But at the same time, I think a big deciding factor this time would be the personnel on both sides, injured players or players that are currently injured or injured players coming back.
Absolutely.
If Lewandowski can play minutes, that'll be a big plus for Barcelona. Kunde's injury, how bad is it? Would they be available for the next leg? That's also a big point. That
No, I
Lautaro
think
Martinez,
we'll
that's
be lucky to have Kunde play. We'll be lucky to have
Lautaro
Kunde
looks,
play any more minutes this season at all.
yeah, Lautaro looks like
Yeah,
he might be
the
missing.
club might not report it.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
also, I think one
and
big,
as we're starting to see it more. Sorry that I'm cutting you in, but as we're starting to
yeah,
see
no,
it
no, no,
more at
go,
these
go, go,
later
go.
stages of the season, as we're starting to see that more in these later stages of the season, where clubs are very hesitant to communicate the extent or the period of which their key players will be out when they are injured. For example, Barcelona kept stringing things along with the perception that, oh, Bade could make this game, and probably that would have impacted how Inter Milan would prepare for the game. The same thing they did exactly the same thing with Thuram. They kept saying he's not fit for the game until the starting lineup is up. But I feel like we missed, especially in this home leg, we missed Lewandowski's ability to be, dangerous around the box, mopping in those like Barca strikers or forwards were not first to those second balls in the
That
box.
poacher in the box, that poacher where
They were not
he
that
gets,
poacher in the box wasn't they
yeah,
weren't there, and that is something that hopefully if Lautaro doesn't make it into the second leg, it's something that Inter would miss as well because he's very instinctive. He's almost as though he's very telepathic where he understands where the ball would drop and where it would bounce off the ricochet. It's just gonna be there. He's gonna be that guy sweeping it in. So if he doesn't make that game, that sways things hugely to Barca's favor. But I think the big decider for this tie would be the presence of Balde. And why am I saying that? If Balde is present, it means that the the fullback for Inter will be contained, right?
okay,
Balde is one of the most explosive left backs right now in terms of the pace going up and down. He has the energy to do that as well. He's young, like most of the Barca squad. Um, and that will count for something if he's available on that night.
okay. Well, I think that's probably an extensive um coverage of the two Champions League games. We look forward to the return legs. So moving on to our next point of discussion.
Yes, this is the moment where you roll out the drums, give your guard of honor, and show
Oh,
proper appreciation to the new EPL champions. We The ribbon is red, but not on the red side of Manchester. It's on the red side of Mercedes. Liverpool have officially become the the Premier League champions. I think it's a championship that they've won nearly 2 months before it's officially handed over to
yeah,
them. But they have it now, and for me, this is a big statement into the debate of who is the greatest or which is the greatest club from the English side. I think that trophy just kind of put to bed a lot of speculations, a lot of arguments, and a lot of counterpoints from the likes of Man United in terms of which English team has dominated. Just for the record, that is the 20th Premier League title um, for Liverpool. They're now the joint highest Premier League winners with United, 20 apiece. And I think following them would be Arsenal with 13 and then Man City with 10. And the list keeps going on like that. But what I think would be the tie decider, if you're thinking about this celebratory moment for Liverpool, would be that in addition to their 20th Premier League title. They've also won the most European competitions from an English side, especially in Champions League. They've won it 6 times. I think that's twice the amount of times from their closest competitor, which is United. And and it's a lot of it's happy moments, especially given the fact that the last time they won the Premier League, they couldn't celebrate with their fans due to the unfortunate situations with COVID and all of that. Right now, I think the party is still on in Mesodaj. They've been celebrating all weeks, and I
They're
think they'll bring that
saying
celebration
there's
to
some
Chelsea.
people, some people are saying it's two Premier League titles in 5 years. Well, I think it's two Premier League titles in 32 years. So depends on how you look at it. But again, with because I think I was reading, I think Chelsea had decided that has given out or rolled out the most guard of honors in the Premier League. I think this will be our second guard. This will be our second guard of honor to this Liverpool team
In how many years?
in 30 in 32 years.
Two, five.
Depends on how you
Oh
look at
no,
it.
the
Yeah,
person.
no,
Oh,
no. Okay, no, but at the same time, I think one of the I like the tradition of the Guard of Honor. It shows I think it's a classic thing to do, and at the same time, I think it's also a learning moment or a teachable moment for not just the players but the club as well. When you have to roll out the carpet for an opposition team that comes to your ground to
oh,
flaunt their success,
I
and
would have loved
it's
that
where
God
is
of
that.
Honor. I would have loved the God of Honor if it was a Barca Madrid team. Absolutely. But
This
I mean, I'm allowed to
I think
daydream. If things
there's a
happen,
chance
maybe
that
next season it will
there's a
happen.
chance.
Um,
Actually, no, but I think there's a chance of that happening this season. No,
no, there's no chance. It's
there's no
done.
chance.
It's done.
Okay,
It's not
okay.
mathematically possible because even if Barca wins the next game, right, and Madrid loses, it will be 7 points with it will be 7 points with 4 games to go. It's not mathematically possible.
Yeah, okay, and with the I think with the God of Honor, because I was listening to my manager's press conference today, where he was very he spoke with a lot of admiration for what Liverpool have done, a lot of respect for what their achievements so far. But at the same time, he seemed to be picking out a lot of little details in how they've gone about it, of how their squad has been built from the squad building perspective, but also how the manager
Hmm.
has gone about it this season and the internal expectations from the club and the fan base as well, where a lot of fans did not go into this season expecting to win the Premier League title. In fact, they didn't. I doubt a lot of Liverpool fans expected a title challenge from that team, but they've embraced the situation where they've been in. And I think for the Chelsea manager as well, that's the teachable moment for him, where he can see his own hand in how Chelsea season has gone about just by simply his messaging in terms of how he was on this pride of going on. We are not in a title race. We can't win this title. We can't win this title. And to what degree that played a factor in Chelsea's season after that, we might never know. But I believe that's played a massive factor into it. Again, congratulations to Liverpool. I know my Liverpool fans, they've, they think I've been
I
quiet on
probably
this
didn't
matter for
hear
a
you
long time.
properly. Can you say that again?
I said,
I'm checking on the audio. Can you say that again?
I said congratulations to Merseyside Reds. Liverpool Football Club. It's again, I think I think this for me, this is as I know the Champions League is what the Champions League is, but I think whenever you win your domestic title, I think that is where it's really at. That's what dominance looks like, where you've been able to brush aside the opposition for I think about 9 months, consistently turn up with performances week in, week out, and able to set the pace and eventually cross the finish line. The likes of I think Mo Salah will get a lot of headlines. I think he's been the standout player this season at Liverpool and on the team.
Hmm.
Virgil van Dijk, I'm not Virgil van Dijk at the back is I think he's been as good as he's ever been. Likes of Konate, that partnership has been brilliant. But I also think Trent was having another good season, though he might be persona non grata at
Departure
Merseyside with
kind
his
of.
eminent departure. But I think the biggest success story of this Liverpool title win is how the manager got that midfield working really quick. It seemed he benefited a lot from the preseason where he was able to gather his thoughts quickly as possible, sell the message to the players, and also figure out how to get that balance going. Because again, that's this guys like Alexis McAllister, Szoboszlai, and Gravenberch. They all arrived at Liverpool last
Government.
season and for whatever reason, it seemed like Klopp could not get the balance of that midfield going, especially with that three particularly. And I think Slot has found a way to get, if he's figured it out, he's got the best, they're both playing their best football for the football club. And probably even for like a guy like Gravenberch, this is the best he's played as a senior
Yeah.
international. So it's testament to him. But also at the same time, I think it's just how the calmness is really he's brought to that club. The way he's gone about the business this year is really, I think it's really remarkable because it's not, I don't think there's any moment I can point to it where I can say, okay, he's under pressure or he's feeling the pressure. He's feeling they look a bit shaky or he looks lost or he looks like the players lack confidence. They're not getting the message or this team doesn't look good tactically. I think this is one of the better coaching jobs in recent times in the Premier League because I know we have the Leicester season, but I think this is probably just not up there, but I think this is among one of the best managerial feats in the Premier League in a long time. Because this is again, and this is not a Jose Mourinho who arrives in Premier League as a Champions League winner with that pedigree,
Yeah. Yeah.
not the arrogance, but the confidence at which he arrived with in the Premier League, where he reshaped English football. But you get this guy who's from the Dutch league. We've seen other guys that have been successful in the Dutch league, particularly Erik ten Hag at Manchester United, and how they've struggled to adapt to the Premier League. But with him, is I'm really impressed with how he's gone about it. The humility, not because again, we see managers they come in, it's all okay, my way, this is my
Uh-huh.
philosophy.
Uh-huh.
He's not really gone down that lane. He's embraced the job. He's paid homage to what Jurgen Klopp has done, which for me, I think that's a bit of glazing, in my opinion. This is not this club did not win this title. You won this title. Embrace it. This is your team now. So I don't. He was singing Klopp's name after the victory the other day. I think that was crazy to me, but. Again, I'm just a hater. But again, congratulations to Liverpool. I hope when they come to Stamford Bridge this weekend, they've partied hard this week, and I hope again I'll do the trade. You take your guard of honor, the applause and all that. Just leave 3 points. That's all I ask. Leave 3 points
I,
because
I think Chelsea
the
will
race
get
for
the 3 points.
the Champions League places is still heating up.
Absolutely. I think Chelsea will go to 3 point. Will get 3 point. I know that I expect Liverpool to go in there and put on a performance. To again
Yeah.
show gratitude to their fans, but also they will be excused if there are any slip ups there. I start to expect going forward. And as a slot, can start looking into a picture of what he wants next season to look like. I start trying some of those things out earlier. Pretty much, he has deservedly bought himself 4 or 5 more preseason games with competitive teams that are actually looking for things to go. And this is the time to start trying things out with fringe players,
Yeah.
and trying to see
And also,
whatever transfer market decisions you want to take in terms of who to let go, how to cope with certain guaranteed or imminent departures, and all those kind of things. But speaking of that, that this is a proper segue to look into what it feels like for the rest of all the teams, be it contenders, pretenders, and whatever the case might be. But there is the top five finish up for grabs. Now, for the top five finish up for grabs, again, for our viewers who might not know this, it means that the top five teams in Premier League table at the end of the season will be guaranteed Champions League football. We already know two slots are taken off the table, which is
do Do we know that though? Do we know it's two, or do you think Arsenal not? Do you think Arsenal might not get thrown into this equation?
even if they were to get even if they got carried away and they get drawn into the equation, they're not dropping fifth. So they're not dropping fifth. Literally, they're four
Yeah,
points ahead of the next team. Am I
yeah,
correct?
there's seven. I think there's 7 points. It's 7 points between them and the and missing out on the Champions League. That's with five. I think with 4 games to go, it's yeah. I think so. Yeah, okay, yeah. I expect them to not maybe not finish second, or but I expect them to finish in the Champions League places. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Then
so
it comes down to
so who takes the
Newcastle,
other
Man
three?
City, Chelsea, Nottingham Forest, and Aston Villa.
I
How
think
do you see it?
I think I said my piece in one of our previous editions. If you did not watch
Yeah?
it, please go go right there sitting on the channel, watch it. But just for a quick recap, right? I believe that I'm convinced that Chelsea will make it to the top five, even though some Chelsea fans do not believe in that.
They
Hmm?
do, they do have the hardest fixtures, Chelsea,
Absolutely, they do have the hardest features, but you have to contextualize those
on paper.
features. You have to contextualize those features. They're playing against the United that has their eyesight on the Europa League as the highest priority for them. They're gonna play against Liverpool, whose season has been fully decided. Um, and I think of the other two teams left, I think they play against is it Nottingham Forest, and that will be the
They play
last game of the season, right?
last game of the season, and Newcastle away.
And Newcastle away. So the biggest banana skin for them right now would be away to Newcastle because they have similar ambition. That is the biggest banana skin for them. I see them getting all 3 points against Liverpool this weekend. I think Chelsea will walk away as winners there, of course, marginally. And when they play Newcastle, um, if they can get a draw in that performance, it it will mean more than 1 point. A draw against Newcastle
Okay.
will mean more than one
No,
point because
I
it's
think
more.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think a draw at Newcastle is a fantastic result for Chelsea. In
absolutely,
my opinion.
absolutely. So against United, United has wrapped up their seasons. There's nothing left for them in EPL. Let's just be very clear. And it
Yeah,
will be absolutely bonkers to see Amori go out there and field his best 11, knowing fully well that he could save some legs, rest some players, prepare his tactics for whatever it is that could come their way in Europa. So
and the final, well, the Europa League final.
yeah,
Yeah.
so he can easily rest those players, and that in itself will present an opportunity for Chelsea to do something good. And most importantly, on the last day against Nottingham, um, that is the tricky tie. But depending on where how Chelsea
It could
performs in
also
these other three games, right?
it
A
could be a
point could be
meaningless
it could be job done, or it could be a point is
job
enough.
done.
So,
Yeah.
so I still see them making it through, um,
Okay.
and especially with Nottingham for dropping the steam in recent weeks, the loss to Brentford midweek,
It was
um,
yeah.
and and I think they've also dropped points before that. I think to did they drop points
This
to City or something?
the City was the cup
Go
semi final, but
finals.
they dropped points. So Forest have three defeats in the last five.
Exactly. So one more defeat, and they will be in a very interesting situation. So
Yeah.
I still see the top five without any particular order, but I still see the top five being Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester City, Newcastle, and Chelsea. And that will be
Okay.
a very good
That's
representation for the English Premier League in Champions
yeah,
League next season.
because yeah, and you had one of Tottenham or Manchester United from the Europa League as well. I think actually that'll be England Premier League could have six representatives in the Champions League next year.
Yeah, with a couple of
Yeah,
them dropping off in the
well,
group stage.
well, well,
Um,
good luck to them. But I take a bit of confidence from your confidence in Chelsea making it because I still feel maybe I'm a bit too close to it and maybe I still see it as it's still the fixtures worry me and I fear that the poor result against Ipswich a few weeks ago might really come back to haunt Chelsea in the next few weeks. But it could still end up being a good season where you finish in the Champions League positions and you end up bringing some silverware back, though not one of the most sought after silverware, but still it's a trophy nonetheless. So that will spell a good end to the season for Chelsea. But back to European competitions, the Europa League semi-final.
hmm.
You were quite bullish about Atletico Madrid, Athletic Bilbao's chances against this United team. How did you see that game going?
Well, I felt it was
Or how did you see the game? Because it was not a good showing for Bilbao, in my opinion.
yes. So this is just a proper proof that football is a very moment-based sport. The
Yeah,
finest
that's
of
true.
moments decided the fate of Atletico Bilbao in the first leg. It's crazy, but I still don't think this tie is done and dusted. It depends on who scores the first goal.
Oh.
We've lived through
Well,
different things in
strange,
football. This is the tall order.
Stranger Things have. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah,
Stranger things have happened.
stranger things have happened. This is the tall order. United have all
You
the
just
momentum, but this
you need
United team is still very fragile. You need
yeah.
certain players to turn up and turn up correctly. And also, I saw Atletico in one of its laziest form I've ever seen them in, as much as I can remember. They were not.
Do you think did you think they go into this they underestimated United in this tie?
Well,
Because that it was a very it seemed like a very it seemed like a very naive showing from Atletico Bilbao. Not just I know not the result per se, but how they considered the first goal and how they reacted to it. It's just it's not I didn't expect that showing from Bilbao per se because it's very but then they started off quite brightly. They didn't take their chances, which again we know how football goes. You don't take your chances, you get punished. But I think that's with the penalty and the decision in that moment to make that foul. I think that defender really sold not just his team, but I think the entire club short because again, this is not vintage Manchester United team. Even with a goal down, you can still
mhm.
get a good result against that team with 11 on the pitch. But when you make that decision to, again, this is Rasmus Højlund. There's no guarantee he even gets there or he scores that goal. So, what he was thinking, I don't understand. But do you think it was a harsh sending off?
Is debatable. I can understand the referee's decision to send the player off. I would have also understood it if the referee didn't send him off. It's one of those where you put yourself in a
Yeah,
situation where you could get slaughtered and you
it's a
got
tough call.
slaughtered. Yeah, so yeah, there was that. And it's interesting how United have always had a penalty in almost all knockout phases of this Europa League. For the last three, four opponents, they've always had a penalty in one of those legs. And just put that in the parking lot and just let us simmer through. Um but Ernesto Valverde walking into this tie should know that Man United will play for the penalties. He should have spoken to his players about it. It's not a surprise where you don't go in there and then make it possible for them to go on and get those penalties. And the sending off is way more detrimental than the penalty because it's absolutely,
Exactly. Yeah, I
it's
think
just
I think it killed. I think once that red card was given, and Bruno dispatches the penalty to make it 2-0. That just I think it killed the tie as a contest. But you still believe they could mount a comeback
they could.
in Manchester?
Yes, if they have all their guns blazing, it's never been a free flowing team in terms of scoring goals, Bilbao.
Yeah,
But I feel like this United is very delicate both in terms of mentality and aspiration. If the first, if a goal comes through in the first half and then
they
follows
could.
up, and then they get the second goal anything before 60th minute, I think United might crumble. I think the tension will
Yeah,
start to build up. But again, there's a lot of ifs and buts, and that's not how football typically plays out. But it's absolutely disappointing to see Bilbao slip up like that, and then also potentially relinquishing an opportunity to host and play the Europa League final. It could have just been so much of a
that would
football
have
festival
that would
for
have been
them,
massive.
not been so much of a football festival
Um,
for them.
moving on to the other semi-final, Tottenham hosting the Norwegian underdogs, Bodo Glimt. I
Hmm.
think 3-1 victory for Tottenham. And
That is
so
an
this,
advantage that I hope they don't bottle for their
okay, yeah,
sakes.
exactly. So
I hope they don't
because this
bottle it
is
because you were three goals up. If I remember the game
yeah,
vividly,
there were
they were
there were
three goals
three. How
up.
they managed to consider that one because again with Tottenham because you try to see the signs and I think with this Tottenham that we know the history of the Tottenham that one goal could be very
Could be
worrisome
the
for
beginning
Tottenham
of
going
the end.
forward
Yeah, it could just be the beginning of the
and
end.
and particularly because this team Bodo Glimt are quite they've had some big results against some European teams in Norway. I think a few years ago they beat Jose Mourinho's Roma. I think it was 6-1. They've beaten FC Porto at home this season. They've got some scalps at that stadium. And again, because it's not they have the plastic pitch in Norway because obviously because of the weather they can't maintain not the natural grass there. But Tottenham I'm not as confident with Tottenham as I am with United seeing it to the final. They have this they could if
Tendency.
any team can find a way to if any team can find a way not to win this tie from this position, I think it's definitely Tottenham. So But I think we'll see how that goes. But then again, if both teams manage to see out the second legs, it sets up an all English final. It's um it's a tale of two. I think struggling is too kind of a word to even describe their league seasons. I think two terrible teams meeting in the final with the chance to get Champions League positions from I think where are they in the table?
16th, 14th, respectively, from losing half the number
Uh,
of games that you compete
yeah,
in
16th.
your
Yeah,
league.
top,
It's oh my
like
goodness.
I'm looking at that last five. It's just red. So Tottenham United are 14th, Tottenham are 16th. But I think Tottenham have had a good record against United quite recently, particularly this season. I think they've won 3 times. They've beaten United 3 times this season. But who do you think this is? Who needs this more? Who needs this Europa League trophy more between
Oh,
Tottenham and United?
um, just as a football neutral, I think it will be beneficial for the English team, for the English reputation. If United wins the Europa League and find a way to be in the Champions League, they've got the history, they've got the
Represented in Champions League.
heritage, they've got history, they've got heritage, and also it might just take them a little bit more to increase their appetite to jiggle that squad because I think that squad needs a lot of chiseling and jiggling to get in shape. So if a guaranteed spot in the Champions League gives them that opportunity to do that, then we could be in for a treat in terms of Premier League next season because you have six fully motivated squad to go in there and do
Yeah,
proper business in the transfer market. And
yeah.
and then suddenly a Chelsea Liverpool game will be a mouth-watering encounter, not the ones where you exchange guard of honors. So those kind of things, I apologize, but that's the reality of what it is right now. Um, there are a lot of there are a lot of levels that have dropped off when you think of United playing Tottenham and all those kind of things. I feel like we're still pretty much we'll be going ahead of ourselves if we start to speculate as to whether or not it's going to be an all English final. It's looking most likely to be the case. And then when we get
Well,
there, start
it's
thinking about the potentials for who could win that.
yeah,
One thing that would sway an advantage to United would be that we've been to the stadium at least once this season, the stadium where the final will be hosted. We've been to that
and they've got a
stadium
result.
and we've got a result that could give them that push. But if at all any Bilbao fan finds his way into that stadium, he's
Yeah, they'll
automatically
they,
on the
they'll
side
find
of Tottenham.
they'll find. Yeah, I think for me, I have no problem with United winning it, but I have big issues with Tottenham winning this trophy, particularly because of the Tottenham manager. I don't think you should. I don't find it. I don't think you should be rewarded with any trophy per se, with how he's managed their season this year and how he's gone about it, not just on the pitch, off the pitch. His press conferences, and also his infamous um boast that he always not if, but he always wins a trophy in the second season. And I feel if he does win into this, I think that's gonna show on his ego. But again, I expect, regardless of,
Are you sure those are the
but
reasons why? Are you sure that is all of the reasons why you don't
no,
want
no, yeah,
Tottenham to?
but again, at the same time, as a Chelsea fan, I don't think I don't think Arsenal fans are ready for a Tottenham team that has won a European title before them.
Yeah,
So that'll be funny.
and that would
But
be
also at the same
Tottenham's
time,
first trophy in what? In how many years?
since 2008 against Chelsea. But also, let's paint this hypothetical. Do you think Ange Postecoglou should keep his job if he wins the Europa League title this season?
I don't think he should get sacked. I'll start with that. But I would think
Okay.
I don't think he should get sacked. But I would think a clever man should walk away at that point because it's doom
There's,
in sport.
yeah, yeah.
It is doom at the moment. It's like a lot of players needs to be chopped and out, or you just need a
A
fresh,
fresh, you need a change. You need,
fresh ideas, fresh because you can't continue to power through. that kind of form. Like it just takes one relapse
There's no
next
love
season.
there. There's
And it
and it's
takes
all, yeah,
one
it's
relapse, one relapse next season. It doesn't matter who it's against, and then the nightmare of this season will be upon them again. So I don't think he
yeah.
should get sacked. I think they should. If he wins, he's gonna be in his all-time high in terms of career deliverables for Tottenham, and
Yeah,
he can
he
just
becomes
use that
he
as a
goes
bait
into
to become marketable elsewhere and just get going. He should keep it moving.
yeah,
He should keep it
yeah.
moving. If he wants to, he can switch to another English team. I think there'll be a lot of people happy to have him. If that were the case, um, or he can, he can go across the south or the east of Europe, and he would still get some good shooters there. But
Or
yeah,
there's also this other situation where he gets fired before he has the opportunity to play the final.
that'll
Because
be
if I think
that'll be the
Tottenham
most stupid thing Tottenham would ever do.
well, no, well, not really, because
It
this is
will
a
be the
club
most
that
stupid thing. And there's
this
something
is
I
a club
wanted
that
to
have done
call. There's something I wanted to call out.
this is a
Sorry
club
that
that
I'm
have done it
cutting.
before.
Yeah, I know they
Yeah,
did that with Mourinho and all of that. But there's something I wanted to
yeah,
call out, and I think it crossed my mind a couple of days ago when I was looking at the table. Imagine Tottenham continues this woes, which I don't pray on them, but whatever the case might be, they continue this woes, and they're in a relegation zone, right? They end the season
yeah.
in relegation, but they
This season.
win. Yeah,
No, it's no. I think mathematically they cannot get relegated.
they cannot get
I think
relegated.
I believe the relegation places are already sorted already. The
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
the
I, I
three
think
teams are already gone down.
I think they're
There's
all, yeah,
no
they're all destined to, but
they're
okay,
safe. I think they're okay.
they're
There's no
okay.
worry about that.
All right, so
But
hypothetically, what I was thinking when I was thinking that hypothetically, I was like, imagine Tottenham are in that relegation zone, but go on and win this Europa League. How does that play
win
out
the
for?
Champions League.
Hmm?
Okay, no. Say again,
So
say again.
I'll repeat it. Imagine, and this is just something for banter, nothing serious, okay? Tottenham fans, do not take offense to this disclaimer. I do not hate your club. I don't hate your club, okay? So, but just imagine Tottenham finishes
I do.
the season in relegation, but
Yeah.
they go ahead and they win the Europa League, which means automatic qualification to Champions League. Do you then see a, I don't want to imagine it. You want to see a tier two Premier League?
No. Yeah, I
Uh,
know.
what
I know.
happens? What
And
happens? Literally, what happens? Because
well,
you cannot override the condition for which they won and qualified. You can't overwrite it.
yeah, it's yeah. I think we can. Sadly, that it cannot materialize, unfortunately, because I would have loved to see it, but the likes of Ipswich, Leicester City, and Southampton, they've not held up their deal of this bargain. But no, but again, but also at the same time, there's
They're
also
they're
this
not too
scenario
far
where
off. They're not too far off. Like there's
no,
a
it's
couple of
no,
points away. They're not
it's
too
done.
far off. I
No,
know,
it's
I
done.
know, I know
It's
they're
done.
done. I know they're done. I'm saying right now it sounds
Yeah,
very hypothetical, but it was just a couple of
I
points
can
away,
have
and that could
no.
have been a reality.
Yeah, I know. I think I can have fun because I know it won't happen, but this
Mhm,
would have been a very interesting situation. But how about this hypothetical situation where a Tottenham manager wins the Europa League,
mhm,
Liverpool with Arne Slot wins the Premier League on his
mhm,
first try in the Premier League, Chelsea or say United or Tottenham, Chelsea finish with the Conference League. I know
mhm,
it's not the biggest or the most prestigious, but it's still a trophy.
mhm.
And Man City win the FA Cup, or even Crystal Palace win the FA Cup. And all these teams around a certain
And has Man City
club
won the
in
trophy this season?
no, I don't think so.
No. Who won the
I don't
Community
think so. No.
Shield? It might not be a trophy, but who won the
Again,
Community Shield?
I'm not sure about the Community Shield. I think it's United. I'm not sure, but I think it's United. I think it's United. I'm
Okay.
not sure.
Could you
I'm
check
really
that?
not. I think
Do
it's.
you have your screen? Could you just check?
I think.
I think they
I don't
won
necessarily.
against. I think they won against Man City. I'm not sure.
I know it was Man City. mm, Um, so no, I'm not gonna subscribe to your ads.
Okay, so while Frank is pulling up that stat,
So it was Man City. They won on penalties.
okay, so Man City won. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so that continue with what you're saying. That flaws whatever it is I was thinking.
So you then like from an Arsenal perspective, as an or do Arsenal fans feel a bit? How do they feel towards the manager and the club if they see all these teams winning? Again, these are teams that have not had good seasons. Chelsea, United, Tottenham, probably even Crystal Palace, even Man City. In fact, how they feel if they all materialize that they win something, but Arsenal ends up without a trophy. Though having though they made it all the way to Champions League semi-final. Do you think Arsenal fans might get a bit restless with that scenario where all this happens?
Well,
And
what?
wait, and also, I'm sorry, just another point to this question. Who do you just? I think this you can answer this after that. But who do you think is currently the better manager between Mikel Arteta or Arne Slot of Liverpool?
Okay, so I'll go with your first question and then I'll go with the second
Yeah.
one. Um, so the assumption is assuming United wins Europa League.
You,
Okay,
yeah. Okay. Let's go. United win the Europa League,
United
Chelsea
winning Europa
conference,
League, Chelsea wins the
Man City.
conference, Man City maybe wins the FA Cup in addition to the
hmm
Community Shield. Um,
Liverpool Premier League champions.
Liverpool Premier League champions. Yeah, Spurs is just whatever. No, you know what? Actually, let's spin it around. Imagine Spurs win Europa.
Oh yeah. North London, yeah, North
Yeah,
London forever. Yeah, Spurs win the Europa League, Champions League. Yeah, but you know
Tata is
what?
gonna be on
See,
fire.
no,
So first of all, the internet will be absolutely bonkers. It will be
yeah,
it will be
it will be.
bonkers. The trolls will be out of their hiding. It's gonna be. I, I,
No,
I don't want to
because I
imagine this
sus
for any ass stuff, and I respect the club, but it's just gonna be because it's gonna be a lot of hush moments, and then you see famous quotes from Patrick Evra, which always say like stuff like
it's
Netflix,
like Netflix.
next season will be better.
Wait for
It's
next
gonna be
season.
it's gonna be unbelievable because now you put it into perspective, it would undermine the success that Arsenal has had this season. Let's let's not throw things away. Let's not put things out of context. It's indeed a challenge and a befitting one worth celebrating if they even end up as second in the Premier League, even though they had different aspirations at the start of it. And regardless of how their season goes from here, playing in the Champions League semi-final is something that they should be proud about. But for the sakes of trolling, okay, for the sakes of trolling and for the ever finger-triggered happy football fans, I don't want to imagine
Yeah.
that on Arsenal. It will be too bad.
Oh, okay.
Too bad. Too bad.
And the second question.
And the second question, for me, I would piggyback off a point that you made when we were talking about Yamal, Dembele, and I think it was Mo Salah, who's the better right wing back, right
Yeah,
wing
right
right
sided player.
winger. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll piggyback a point that you made there, and you said something. You were like, as brilliant and as flashy and as organized and mature as Yamal is, he has only done it for maybe 2 seasons at best. Right now, we're adding this.
yeah,
Um, Saka has done it for 4 years or
yeah.
slightly more, but arguably not at the level at which Yamal had done it. And by the level, we're talking about if Yamal goes on to win great things that is very lined up to win right now. If he goes on to win that, then you will say, as brilliant as Yamal has been, as brilliant as Saka has been for the last 4 years, he's not gotten his hands on any significant silverware. And that in itself was a bit of a decision point that didn't go in Saka's favor, right? Now
Yeah.
we take that same narrative into this conversation. What Slot has done is pretty much he's put himself where even Klopp, in terms of achievement, cannot look Slot in the eye and say, I had a better Premier League career than you did.
Yeah,
And,
it puts him because again it
and
puts
you're
him in
talking
that. I
of,
think he's
yes, you're talking of after your first season. Yeah, Slot and Klopp,
yeah, he has a good
eyeball
team, all that,
for
but
eyeball. Klopp cannot look Slot in the eyes and say, "Oh yeah, I was a better Premier League manager than you." Hell no. In terms of achievement, it's not a conversation. So then take that on to Arteta. It's Arteta's what, fifth season, if my memory serves correct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think fifth. Yeah, yeah, fifth.
and this guy has come and has done it, and he can go to bed and wait and hope that you match that record in another 4 years. He
Yeah.
can do that.
And, and also the beautiful thing about Slot is because he's not had any, again, it's his first, this is his debut season, but also he's not had any significant addition to the team where he's basically gone there, refreshed
Mm-hmm.
what Klopp left behind and is taking them to new levels where that Klopp couldn't. And the levels are the same levels where Arsenal have, again, objectively, they failed to reach. And it seems, I think it's getting, I think next year would be probably be if Arsenal this is all if Arsenal don't make it to the Champions League final and God forbid win it, I think next season might be Arteta's
Make it or
biggest
break
season
it. This is a
yet.
straw.
Yeah,
This is the straw.
because
If you
this is where you have no this is I expect them to have significant movements in the transfer window. But I think next is the one where they go, okay, no more excuses. It's either we can or we can't. And if we can't, then we'll move from there. But there's no because I have this feeling because a lot of Arsenal fans I talk to, they always seem to, again, I could be wrong. They always seem to, you know when they say act like you've been here before,
mm-hmm,
act like you know what it is, and I feel they always feel they feel happy to be in this in this moment, like the Champions League semi-final we talk about.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
They always feel they don't go into it to expecting to win. They just okay, we're here.
mm-hmm,
But yeah, okay, let's if we don't win it, we can it's almost like they got that not that excuses per se, but they've got so much reasons why they can't win already lined up. Okay, we have these injuries, we've not got this. There's a yellow card against Thomas Partey. Odegaard has been injured this season. Odegaard's missus gave birth to a kid this season as well. Saka has been injured. No Kai Havertz. Arteta has not had this. It seems they're always ready with excuses to list as to why they can't win. Why sometimes it's so I feel like I think like with you as a Barcelona fan, I know your team is different and your history is different. But with this thing, like in terms of you've you basically disturbed me with talks of
mm-hmm.
treble. Oh, Barca gonna win the treble, Barca gonna win the treble. And as much as I hate it, also I respect the confidence in the team because at the same time, you've seen your team play, you know what they can do, I know what they can do. I know what the expectation is of this team where if they do in fact don't win a treble per se, that's said not without the Champions League, it might it might have a blemish on this season. Though it's still a fantastic season,
Mm-hmm.
but it might not taste the same. Though it's a fantastic meal, but it might not taste the same as you expected it to be. But I just feel Arsenal they need. I just feel I don't know if it's a mental situation or a club that just hasn't won enough in recent years, so they don't know how to get past that. Because even with Chelsea, Chelsea's last Champions League win. Like nobody expected us to win it, but it got to a point where you start reading the signs. Okay, yeah, we've got this. Go away, you get that result. Okay, we can get this result. You fancy yourself. I just feel Arsenal don't fancy themselves enough in this situation because it's almost it seems easy to. Well, we lost it to Man City again. Well, what do you expect? It's Man City. Yeah, they spend more money than everybody else. We've lost it to that team. That's fine. But at some point, you need to cross that bridge. And if not, you have to go from there. And I just feel next season might be Arteta's
Yeah,
make or break.
personally, I feel like last season was the better season for Arsenal in terms of performance, pedigree, expectation, challenges, as
No,
compared to this season.
yeah,
Um,
the last two, in fact, not. I think this season has been a poor season from them
yeah.
by
So
by their standards.
yeah, and so they've progressed the most in this season in terms of if you look at things from a grand scheme of things, like the last two seasons that we called very good seasons for them, they still ended in second place in in the Premier League, and they didn't get this far in Champions League, right? They've gotten this far in Champions League, and in all due respect, with all due respect, they were not pushovers, they were not just carried along, they were top four in the league phase of the Champions
Yeah, they
League.
had a good showing.
Yeah, besides the Fenerbahce game, they played, you know, serious serious opponent, and if they make it through to the final, it will be deserving. But overall, I agree with you. If Ateta doesn't go as far as winning the trophy this year. Next season, he deserves to still be Arsenal manager, but it still has to be very clear. You don't win something now, then we are not confident
Win or
for you to
bu-
go forward.
win or
Yeah,
win or bust.
yeah,
Yeah,
and right now
and
we've seen the trend that clubs have started to look for replacements that can bring a refresh, and then just like for example, there wasn't a lot wrong with Xavi. You ask a lot of Barca fans, they'll tell you that at the end of last season we were not winning, but there wasn't a lot wrong with Xavi. But
it could have, yeah, it could have easily.
it could have
This
easily
is also
continued. Yeah, it could have
this is a
easily
man that has
continued.
won previously. That
Exactly,
won
and this is a
the
player
league
that's
title
won
previously.
exactly. It
So
could have easily
uh,
continued, and then it will still be turning between maybe two halves, whether or not he should be there. But the club decided to make an executive decision, go and chase somebody that is more established and seasoned, and
a top
it's
tier,
yeah,
top tier coach.
and it's paying off. And the same thing happened
Yeah,
to Liverpool. If Klopp wanted to continue, I don't see how they will push him out. But they've gone in there and they've gone to get a manager that has a refreshing point of view for the club. And to an extent, even
that's a good point.
yeah, and to an extent, even United, if United goes on and win the Europa League, right? It will be that they've gone and they've gotten a manager, regardless of his quality as a manager, is still was able to bring
Who
that.
has won? Because again, let's not forget this is the man that's coming with I think three or two domestic titles from Portugal. So he has that
Yeah,
winning culture in his DNA.
yeah,
But again, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But even with just last before we go, I think the second leg against PSG will really because if Arsenal go there and fold like
hmm
a club with no spine, it will be a really bad
yeah, to be very
really
catastrophic,
to be
very, very.
catastrophic for the club going for. And you also get was when say they drop from second or they finish lower than second in the Premier League. Yes, it might not read well. But again, I think so far it's going a lot of games to look forward to this weekend and Champions League second leg. But I think we've done a good job at recapping past events and giving flowers to who deserve flowers. And I think more will be given out on Sunday. And I hope we get I hope we get a favor done for us because we in Chelsea need those points massively. But again, I think again thank you for joining me today. Thanks for the conversation. And to our listeners, if you like what we're doing, like, share, subscribe, follow, leave a comment in the comment section. Any questions, any topics you'd like us to cover, please get them to us and we'll get them we'll talk about them as soon as possible. But again, thank you for joining me, Kingsley. Catch you next time.
All right, thanks again, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure. Take care.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.